Hello.
Hello and welcome back to a very special episode of From the Margins with Violet and Connor. I'm Violet.
I'm Connor.
He's Connor.
I'm so drunk.
Exactly. At the behest of Connor, after our last episode, we actually talked and we decided, you know what? We kind of want to take advantage of this moment. And Connor had the bright idea of me asking him some questions and seeing what his responses would be.
Yeah. This is a deep dive into my drunken psyche.
And again, just double checking, Connor, are you okay with being recorded drunk? Because obviously this is raw audio and we will talk about it later whether or not this needs to go up, so there's no commitment if you want to or not.
I can't wait to see what comes out.
Beautiful. In that case, today we're going to be doing a very special exercise. Some of you may know about it, some of you may not. It is often referred to as the cube exercise. The cube exercise is a personality test / little psychoanalytic tool in which it's a thought experiment in which I will ask Connor to think of certain things and describe them to me, and then at the end of those descriptions I will tell him what that means or what that really infers about his personality.
I love psychoanalysis.
Indeed. In fact, I think you've mentioned a time or two that you're currently in psychoanalysis.
I'm being psychoanalyzed all the time.
Hell yeah. It's because you're very fascinating. Now, speaking of fascinating, Connor, are you ready to begin?
Yes.
All right, close your eyes.
They're closed already.
Beautiful. Connor, now I want you to think of an open field. I want you to describe how big is the field? What does it look like?
I mean, it's a wide field. I think I'm standing on a bit of a cliff because I can see a little bit above everything. It's very flat. There's some weeds. The vegetation isn't too diverse. It's a lot of grass and a lot of plain flowers. I don't know what you can divine from that explanation.
Well, that's the point of these questions. We'll divine at the end.
Okay.
So, you said that there was a cliff. Do you mean you're at a bluff? Because you said it's also flat. Is it just kind of if you just walk straight?
I mean, I'm standing at a bit of a higher plane than the field I am viewing.
Oh, so you're not in the field.
No, I'm standing above it. So I think I'm on the bluff. And it's not like a major cliff or anything. It's not like I'm significantly higher staring down. But I feel as if I'm so high that I can view everything from above. But only slightly,
Gotcha.
a foot.
So you're you're at a vantage point of sort.
Yes.
Gotcha. All right. Now, Connor, in the field, I want you to think of a cube, and I want you to describe that cube as best as possible. What's the size of it? What is it made of? What color is it? Where is it in relation to you?
Well, you mentioned the cube, and as soon as you said that, I pictured this floating blue cube. I would describe it as medium-sized, moderate. It's not big, it's not little, but it's there, it's average. I don't know what average is. It's magical, it's blue, it's floating. And it's moving. It's rotating, spinning. It's shiny. Like I said, it's blue. It almost has this magical energy to it. What else do you need to know about it?
So, you mentioned it's shiny. Is it opaque?
Right, it's completely opaque. I can't see through it,
Right. What shade of blue is it?
It's very light blue.
Like a sky blue?
Yeah, sure.
And also, you said it's a medium size. Now, does medium as in you could pick it up like an Amazon box, or do you mean more so maybe half the size of a human?
I don't know. I mean, I'm describing it as average. Because I don't look at it and get the sense that it's massive or anything, but it's also not completely so small that you can write it off. Like, I think I could very easily hold it if I bothered to like walk out into the field and grab it.
That was my next question. So you mentioned that it is floating, but where is it floating in relation to where you are?
It's like at the center of my vision. It's not like directly in front of me. Oh, I mean, it's in front of me, but it's not close enough that I could reach out and touch it, but it is at the center of this field. It's like the focal point.
Gotcha. If there's a delay in the response of if me responding, it's because I'm writing down your answers so we remember them as best as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Now, Connor, along with the cube, there's some more things I'd like you to think of. For example, tell me, I want you to imagine a ladder. And I want you to imagine it in the field somewhere. Tell me about the ladder. Describe it as best as possible.
It's kind of funny. It like auto-generated as soon as you said it. It just like plopped down next to the cube, and then kind of like real physics, it like plopped down and then like kind of dropped. It's like it's leaning on the cube, and it's like actually keeping the cube from rotating. Like as soon as the ladder touched it, the cube stopped moving.
Interesting.
Like it's holding the cube in place. It's a wooden ladder. It's like kind of like I don't really know how to like describe this ladder. It's like it dropped down. It's like big enough to like it's like a flight of stairs almost, you know. It's meant to bring you to be able to climb to the next level of something. It's like 12 or 14 rungs, you know.
Right.
It's made of wood, it's brown, and it's just a straight up ladder. It doesn't have any support. Like it auto generated onto the field and then instantly like kind of propped itself up against the cube.
Gotcha. Now, where is it? You said it's against a cube, so it is also in the center of your vision, but along the cube?
So from my vantage point, it's to the left of the cube.
Gotcha.
It plopped down next to it, and then because of like gravity, it just fell onto the cube.
Gotcha.
And the cube that was like rotating and spinning and kind of like bobbing ethereally, because the ladder like landed on it, it stopped moving.
Gotcha. Thank you. All right, Connor, I'm going to ask you to put something else inside of your field.
Okay.
Now you're going to add a horse to the mix.
Oh, okay.
Now, tell me about this horse. What horse did you auto-generate, and where is it within your field? What is it doing? What does it look like?
This is weird, but like it's a pure black horse. And I see it with like glowing red eyes, like a demon horse. I don't know why. But like as soon as you mentioned it was a horse, it started galloping from my right hand. And it's like galloping across the field to the left. And it's like far in the background. It's like just running free across the field. And I mean, I guess a black horse with glowing red eyes would be scary. I'm not really scared of it. I don't know why, like, that's the horse I conjured.
Gotcha. Do you feel, even though you're not afraid, does it feel like there's any menace to it? Do you feel, like, happy for the horse? Do you like the horse? Do you have any relation with it?
I like the horse as, like, a compassion thing. Like, oh, yes, that is a piece of nature off in the distance, living its best life. If it were to change course and start galloping toward me, I would be horrified.
Gotcha.
But, like, it's so far off in the distance, I'm not afraid of it. I can recognize that it's probably a fearsome beast, but since it's so far away, I can, like, merely appreciate it.
All right, Connor, within your field, now sprout some flowers. Think of a flower to be in your field and describe what those flowers look like. What does your field look like now that there's flowers in it?
I mean, like I said earlier, there were like some like common
Hmm.
flowers just like there as like scenery. But when you told me to conjure a specific one, literally just like one single red tulip popped up underneath the cube.
It's underneath the cube.
Yeah. It just like, because that's kind of like the center of my vision.
Hmm.
And like, I didn't picture like a bed of them or anything. It's like a single red tulip. It just like popped up out of the
And that's
ground.
perfectly fine.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Now, let's see. Only a couple more.
Okay.
What is the weather like currently? And what is the weather like currently in your field?
I mean, it's just like regular sunshiny day. Very plain. It's pleasant. I like it.
How's the temperature?
Oh, the temperature? I guess it's a little chilly. Like, I need a sweater, but like, I'm also not complaining.
Gotcha.
I like wearing sweaters.
All right. Now, final question before we analyze everything and get a robust picture of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Connor, you've mentioned what the weather is, but there's a storm coming. And not to say there's a storm coming, just think of a storm and tell me about that storm.
Well, as soon as you said that, the entire thing just like turned dark and like lightning started striking. Um, like now the sky is overcast and there's lightning strikes. The horse is gone. It was scared away by the storm. Um, but it's not raining or anything. It's just like overcast and there's like lightning in the distance.
So all the lightning is in the distance, none of it's around you.
Well, I mean, there was like a single strike as soon as you mentioned a storm. A single bolt of lightning hit near the cube and the flower, and like the horse is completely gone, like it was scared away by the storm. This is a very active scene.
I can tell it's very dynamic. Um, is it a thunderstorm or is it a lightning storm? What kind of storm do you think it is?
I mean, it just like it's not even raining. It just got really overcast and there was a single bolt of lightning. And I feel like if I stayed in the fields any longer, the skies would open up and it would begin raining.
Is there any wind?
Oh, interesting.
If there wasn't, then that's perfectly fine. I was just curious.
Do you remember how I said it was like slightly chilly
Uh
earlier?
huh.
Now that it's storming, it's quite humid, actually.
Gotcha.
Like the air is pregnant and all hell is ready to break loose. It's just not doing it yet.
Damn. How big is the storm?
I feel like as soon as it breaks, it's going to be huge and all encompassing. It's just not here yet.
All right, that is pretty much all of the questions. Now, if you don't mind, Connor, we are going to hit pause and I'm going to look over the interpretations and see what we can do.
All right, so I'll hit pause if you count me down to it.
All right. 3, 2, 1, pause. And we're back. This is Violet again with my dear friend Connor.
I'm Connor.
And we have put together and tallied his results. He does not know what they are yet, but I've looked up everything in terms of its symbology and its symbolism. I don't think symbology is a word.
It is a word, but it doesn't mean the same as symbolism.
Exactly. That's why I corrected myself. My apologies. It's been a late night. Well, it's not as late as normal. But the point is, here are your results, Connor.
I'm so excited.
I'm glad you're excited. I am too, if we're being honest, because I really like your answers. All right. First thing we talked about, the field. You said that there was a bit of an incline. There was a bit of a point of perspective. You were a tiny bit ahead. You were a tiny bit up. It was a vantage point. You were not necessarily in the field, but you were observing it, and it wasn't very diverse. Some weeds, a little bit of spattering of plant life, but nothing major aside from a few flowers. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the field represents the mind.
Oh, shit.
Exactly. So by having it be flat, having it be green, having it be with a little diversity, it means you're generally pragmatic. You have you have an outlook on things that lends you to be again, pragmatic, very in the moment. You do think about things highly and loftily, but you do it in a detached, analytical kind of way. Somewhat unassuming. You look at your own mind very often, but
Yes.
and you do analyze it very critically. But when it comes to looking at your mind as a whole, you also recognize it as being something. You do it in a pragmatic way in terms of what are behaviors, what are thoughts or ideas or actions that I can do better or I can improve upon.
That's a byproduct of being in therapy 3 times a week.
Booyah. So, then we move on to the cube. You said that it was floating, it was blue, magic, shiny. It was in the center of your vision, generally center of the field. It also was made of metal. And what else am I forgetting? Nope, it was just magic. And I think you said there was lightning come off it at one point.
No, it like just shone with a blue magical light.
Got you. It was light, not lightning. My
Yeah.
apologies. So the cube is actually you.
Oh my gosh.
Exactly. Now, the fact it was blue is a symbolism. For God's sake, I need a drink. The fact that it was blue means that you are generally an intelligent person.
Oh,
It means
thank
that
you.
you're welcome. Psychoanalysis told me so.
Oh, yay. I'm very smart.
And the fact that it was magic and it was elevated from the ground means that you are unique, and also you kind of have an elevated idea of yourself. You're very,
Oh,
and it was also made of metal, so you're kind of self-assured and a little bit not rigid, but you're sure of who you are. You have a generally okay idea of like, I am Connor. This is what it means to be Connor.
I mean, I will say right now that like I don't have a stable, well, I don't think I have a stable sense of self, and yet there are core tenets of myself that I anchor, my entire identity upon. And I'm like, if everything else is a lie, at least I know my experience of that lie is true.
That's fair.
Okay.
Now, along with that, also because it's in the center of your vision, it means you're really focused on yourself right now. It can mean
Yeah.
whether it's just in your social life, your romantic life, your professional life, you're really focused on getting what you need to be done. You are focused on making sure you're okay.
Yes. Very correct.
Beautiful. Now, aside from the cube, we then move on to the third thing, which was that flowers. No, that was a ladder. The ladder represents your goals and your friends.
Goals and friends.
Yep, the ladder
Okay.
was next to the cube. It dropped down all of a sudden, but then leaned against the cube and stopped it from spinning. You mentioned that it was made of wood. It had
Hmm.
about 12 to 14 rungs, and it was a regular straight ladder. It wasn't a very supportive ladder.
No, it couldn't support itself. It had to lean on the cube.
Exactly. So, for that to represent your goals and your friends, that means that you feel that your friends can generally rely on you. They can lean on you. You feel that you are a friend who is worthy of being a trusted confidant.
Hmm.
And sometimes they do. But if you let your friends lean on you too much, they will quite literally stop you from spinning, or you will devote too much attention to them and your brain will stop. You're afraid of getting fully invested in the drama and lives of your friends for sake of it interfering with your own existence.
Well, that is certainly the truth.
Oh Lord, I clipped my mic with my laughter. And along with that, the fact that it was wooden, it was a wooden ladder, that means that the ladder itself was not very supportive. It means that even though it's relying on you, you don't know 100% if you can rely on it back. It means that, and that it was a straight up and down ladder. It wasn't like an A style ladder that has the support built in. It's frankly an untested ladder. It could be a little bit better, it could be a little bit worse. And if we read it as a friendship analogy. If you talk about it in terms of goals, the fact that the ladder was halfway away from you, halfway towards you on your cube means that you're focused on getting your goals done, and to the point that it also might interfere with your personal life and your actual idea of what you can be doing right now mentally. They're unproven goals, and you've still got a long way to go to actually get them fully. It was a medium-sized ladder, being 12 to 14 rungs. It was not a step ladder. It wasn't like an extending one, which means that you're not amazingly close to achieving the goals you have for yourself, but you've also made huge amounts of strides. You've made a lot of strides toward getting to your goals, and you know that there's still a lot of work left to do, but you've done a lot already.
Dang.
Is that accurate?
I mean, I do feel like I'm nowhere near achieving my goals because I still don't know what they are. And yet at the same time, I feel like in the past year alone, I have made strides to defining who I am and creating a life that's actually worth living.
Well said.
What really struck me was the discussion of friendships and how I get too invested in my friends in these like interpersonal relationships. Full disclosure, like I've done the cube challenge before. This is a different iteration than what I'm familiar with, but I kind of already knew what was going to happen. And that's why I bothered to mention that the cube stopped spinning when the ladder touched it. So I kind of saw coming. I mean, I still like tried to empty my mind of preconceptions and allow the scene to form organically. But I could already anticipate the answer of that, like, when the cube was by itself, it was spinning, it was ethereal, it was magical. But as soon as this ladder was propped against it, it stopped spinning. I stopped my own magic in order to support my friends.
Exactly.
And that is something that my psychoanalyst has like pointed out to me several times, how I tend to diminish my own accomplishments in order to ensure that everybody in my life is supported, everyone in my life is also achieving, or at least I'm supporting them.
Gotcha.
Like I put more emphasis on supporting people than I do in taking care of myself.
Right.
So,
Sounds like it really nailed you there.
yeah. And I'm also curious as to like to what extent did I understand what I was conjuring, and to what extent did my actual unconscious mind create this image with me already kind of knowing what it would represent, you know?
Right. Right. I'm very curious about the idea of the ladder forming from nothing, dropping in the middle of the field, being upright for a moment, and then landing on the cube.
Well, that was kind of like, since you were introducing each element individually, I kind of pictured it as like a Sims game or like any kind of simulation where it's like there's a separate window where you choose the item you want to generate, and then it just kind of plops down into the field of play.
Right.
So it's kind of like when you told me to conjure the ladder, I like picked it from a menu, and once I clicked it, an actual ladder dropped in, bounced, and then fell onto the cube.
Even with that illustration, though, it didn't just materialize. It dropped, bounced, and then physicsed. Which makes
Right.
me think it symbolizes the fact that either these goals or the friendships happened kind of spontaneously, and they were great when they were something to be observed, but if it actually started to gradually interfere to the point that you weren't spinning, it became a problem.
That's so true. It's almost as if when the cube is allowed to be on its own in this grand field, it can be its full potential. But at the introduction of the ladder, that's when it stopped.
Right.
Because like there are times when I can like hyper focus on myself and cut out all these other extraneous things. What I'm not familiar with is this idea of the ladder as also being goals. I've never heard that when I've encountered the magic cube or the cube game. So
This
that's
one,
new for me, at least.
this one I found also did express it in terms of it can be read as goals, which in this case could mean if we did it exclusively as goals, then it mostly means that you've worked a lot toward a goal and also still are a bit far away. It's kind of nebulous. You don't know if it's even something you want. You don't even know 100% what it is. You just know that the idea of achieving your goals might be stopping your brain from spinning.
That's so true. Like, there are things that I think I want, and there are things that I think I should be working toward. And yet, the more effort I put into them, it kind of like halts my personal life, you know?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Are you ready to find out about the horse?
Yes.
Now, Connor, you mentioned you've played this game before. How much of it do you actually remember?
I am familiar with the cube, the ladder, the horse, and the storm. So I know what the horse represents, and yet I tried my very best to allow the horse to form organically based on how you narrated it to me. And I will say, like, the fact that I put as much detail into the horse as I did, I was surprised by what the horse imagery came to be.
Exactly.
So, like, I was still taken by surprise by it when you
Gotcha.
asked me to envision it.
Because I've played this game before, but I'll be honest, I completely forgot what everything symbolized. So I was coming at this from nothing.
Okay.
And so when I read back what some of these things represented, I was like, oh my god, I love it. For example, your horse, it's black.
Mm-hmm.
It has glowing red eyes.
Yeah, it's a demon horse.
It is running from right to left. It is in the far background.
Uh-huh.
You're not afraid of it, but you're also observing it more as a piece of nature than as a part of yourself.
But also, like, I know it would be scary if it ever changed course and charged towards me.
Exactly. So, that horse is representative of your ideal partner.
Okay.
In this case, the fact that the horse is so far in the background means you're not really concerned about the idea of an ideal partner right now. If an ideal partner comes into your life, that's fine, but your focus is on the cube and the field and everything happening right there. The partner is in the back. You know it's there. You know it can be there and might eventually come to you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's doing its own thing. Speaking of doing its own thing, the fact that it's running at all means that your ideal partner will know to give you space and to allow you to be independent and to be an independent person in the relationship. They won't be too clingy to the point that you can't breathe. You're more worried about having the space you need and be in a relationship than you are about other factors in the relationship. Now, you're not afraid of the horse. You're not afraid of the idea of this person. But at the same time, right now, if you're standing where you are, focused on the cube, and it starts turning and running at you full speed, that's going to scare the shit out of you.
Mm-hmm.
If it comes too quickly, too soon, when you're not ready for it, and you're focused on making sure this cube is spinning, you're not going to be prepared for this horse, even if you genuinely like it, even if you appreciate it, even if you see it as a natural thing, it's going to scare you, and you're going to not react positively.
Just drag me, okay?
What? I'm just reading what I found. I'm not dragging you.
Wig.
What the fuck is that supposed to mean?
Okay. I'm sorry that I've, like, imbibed too much, like, drag show culture.
I don't know what that means in general, so I also
It's like when your wig is
respond.
snatched. I don't know. I'm white.
Oh. I don't watch drag shows.
Me neither, but I've been on Tumblr long enough to know, like, the lingo.
Gotcha. I was going to say, I don't wear a wig. What?
No, like, my wig is snatched. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, you just read me for filth. Drag
Perfect.
me,
There we
hunty.
Well, then get ready for the next step.
Oh gosh. Wait, are we done talking about the horse?
I think so.
I wanted to give my interpretation.
Oh, I forgot a detail.
Okay.
The horse is black, which means your ideal partner is also black. I'm kidding. No, your ideal partner is sophisticated. They're charming. They have a bit of a domineering side, but at the same time,
I'm a total sub.
They're regal and sophisticated in their own right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the end of the horse analysis.
Well, I also wanted to say that, like, from when I've proctored this exam for other people, I've also allowed the idea that the horse is the ideal partner, yes, but it's also just the concept of love itself.
Right.
And so for me, and this will be like a part one because I know the storm like affected the horse, but like for now, the fact that the horse was like far in the background, I'm not focused on love at all, which you kind of
Right.
touched on. But also the fact that I'm scared of the horse, or like I recognize that it's scary, I realize now that I'm not ready for a relationship. I'm not ready to tackle questions of love. If this horse ever did come toward me, I would be terrified because it's like I cannot handle romance right now. Like this thing is like dark black with glowing red eyes. It's like a demon. It's like as long as it's off in the distance, as long as it's not right now, is not an immediate threat, I can appreciate it and know that it's a horrifying thing without being like actually scared. And that's how I
Right.
feel about love and romance right now.
Exactly.
Right.
So,
Wait, I want to say some more.
oh, go for it. Sorry.
You were talking about how it's like the running horse meant that I needed like independence. I know there's a lot of symbolism about like if the horse is saddled, if it has like a bridle and a saddle, if it's standing still, if it's tethered to anything. And so not to get into all that, but I know that like a completely naked wild horse means that like I'm not looking to tie anyone down, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have anyone in mind to like be my forever person yet. There is no saddle. There is no like utility in the horse. It's existing far off in the distance. That's
You're
all.
very much the Caleb Gallo of horses.
Do not talk about that with me right now.
Okay, then we will move on.
Okay.
Next, we have the flower.
Yay.
The flower
Which I'm not
represents.
familiar with.
This one almost encroaches on another one. The flower represents family and friends.
Oh.
Because the friends overlaps with the ladder, but at least in this interpretation of it, but the fact that you have a single red tulip come up from underneath the cube means that you are very much focused on a single or very, very, very small, minute group of friends. You have a very small circle that is particularly close to you. You allow them to be within the space of your mind. They are really close to where you are. They are spawned near the ladder itself, but they are not necessarily part of the ladder or in its shade. They are in the shade of the mind. They are in the center of your vision, even if they are below your idea of yourself sometimes. You're thinking of yourself more and elevated, but they are still so close to you that you allow them in that personal space of yours.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's worth noting, when you first initially created the field in general, you already had some flowers populating the field. This generally means that you do have a set of friends and you do have people that you would call friends, but they're more uniform, and not to use this word, but they're kind of dispensable. Some of them are not some of them are not nearly as close as the single red tulip occurring beneath your mind.
Yeah.
And of course, it being red means that this friendship is passionate, it's very electric, it's very engaging. Where the blue of your cube shows intelligence, it shows not confinement, but composure. The red of the tulip shows the tulip itself is a domesticated flower, which means you can be really close to these friends. But the red still shows that even though there is this domestic aspect of it, there's still a very passionate friendship there that's enriching and is giving something to you that you don't normally get in your own right.
Violet,
Yes.
you are my rosebud.
Even though I'm a tulip.
This is our Citizen Kane moment.
Red tulip. And then you drop a globe, and then I'm like, fuck, now I have to clean up this glass. Why did you do that?
What if I had like actually conjured like a blue violet flower in my vision?
I'd have been like, God damn it, Connor. That's two on the nose.
Isn't it funny how it's like my flower was red, but it wasn't a rose. It was like specifically a tulip.
I really liked that. I was like, ooh.
Yeah. That's my Dutch
And
heritage shining through.
and I don't ever in my slightest want to imply that the red tulip is me. Because I feel like a lot of your friends at home, including Zach, including a lot of people, will be like, that red tulip's me, bitches.
We all know who that red tulip really is.
It's your sister.
It's, yes.
She's the only person you care about and like can confide in.
Love you, sister. I won't call you out by name. I'll respect your
Almost.
privacy. Almost.
So close. So close. But yeah, so I like the fact that it was like, it even specifically said in the article that it was if it was like a domesticated kind of flower, it means that there is a homeliness to it. There is a comfort and a security. And I was like, we literally lived with each other for years.
We did.
Oh, yay.
I mean, I try to keep my like super close friends close to home. And one of my like goals in life is to be a father. So,
Oh.
like I want to cultivate a family around me, underneath me, supported by me.
Come, children, get beneath Daddy's magical cube.
All right.
So, dun dun dun, time for weather.
Yeah.
It's currently shiny. I mean, not shiny. It's currently a sunshine day. It is not cold, but it is chilly. It's very clear. Generally no clouds in the sky. This represents your outlook on life, and that is, you're optimistic. You understand that it can be very clear that the world is not necessarily menacing. It will be challenging. It's not always going to be comfortable, hence the fact that you mentioned it was cold. But even in that discomfort, you find some level of like encouragement. You find a degree of fun and intrigue to challenges. Hence why you made the comment about, well, I like sweaters.
Yeah.
So even when you're not 100% necessarily comfortable in your environment, that is not a deterrent from your outlook. You're still like, yeah, the world is kind of a fucked up place, but I mean, hey, let's have our best time while we're here. Thoughts?
Oh, my thoughts are, this is not something that ever appeared when I was asking other people questions about the cube, so I'm very interested in that. I think it's generally true for the most part. I'm not like wholly dissatisfied with life. I mean, it's not perfect. It's not great. It's no crystal stair, but I'm having fun for the most part. I can see the appeal in living another day.
I haven't reached the breaking point just yet.
Not yet. We'll see.
Oh. Why does my mic sensitivity keep creeping up?
I don't know.
I don't know. So, here we go. We're now going to the final one, the storm. Now, the storm represents the idea of stress in your life.
Oh no.
It is dark. There is lightning. The lightning scared away the horse.
Yeah.
There's a deep overcast, but at the same time, there's no rain yet. There's no lightning around you yet. But if you stay too long, it will catch up. The bottom will pour out, and you will be trapped and encircled on all sides. So, what does this mean? I believe this to mean that you are very much afraid of stress. You see it on the horizon. You know that there's going to be a lot waiting for you when you enter the working world and look for a job. Whatever your next steps in life are, you recognize there's going to be some stress in it that you weren't prepared for / you are dreading. And frankly, you're kind of afraid. You see it as a threatening sense, but it's not hit you quite yet. You recognize it. You know it's there. You know it's coming. And like you said, if you stand there long enough and stand still, it will catch up to you and it will be devastating. But it is not here yet. However, that same stress might also scare away the horse or your relationship. If that stress envelops you, it could possibly scare away the person that you have this idea of the perfect relationship with. You're afraid that by being stressed or being caught up in the storm, or even having your partner caught up in the storm, that they will leave, they will abandon you, that they will not stick around for the long haul and go through that duration with you when you need it the most.
Wig.
Damn it, I clipped the audio again.
See, this is why I like to think of the horse as like romance in general. It's like some part of me feels like I can't be in a relationship because of this storm that exists on the periphery. Like, I can't devote myself to someone else because my problems will just rear their ugly head. And I guess, yeah, I'm afraid they'll scare people away. Like, I'm so unconfident and insecure that I don't think anyone will stay with me through them. But at the same time, the threat of the storm is enough for me to like discount the idea of being in a meaningful relationship in the first place.
Right, because the horse is still in the distance by the time the storm's even enveloping. They've not even gotten to you yet.
Right.
So the moment that the storm even hits, that horse is gone already.
Right. It's also interesting to note how, even though I am familiar with the like symbolism of the storm, I maintained this idea of like a perfect clear day up until you told me to picture the storm. So everything was fine until you reminded me of the problems that I'm like scared of. And even when you did remind me, it's not like it instantly began raining. There was just a single bolt of lightning, perhaps an accompanying clap of thunder, and then just we're waiting. We're waiting for the storm to hit. Like, I'm just waiting for all hell to break loose and for my life to fall apart again.
Exactly.
Like, it's been too good for too long, and
Something's about to hit. I'm due for a storm. When is it happening? I know it's on the horizon. I see it. It is not raining yet. Fucking get it over with. Where is it?
yeah, because I don't deserve happiness.
Do any of us really deserve happiness?
I don't even think I'm like authentically happy yet, so
I hear that.
I guess I'm just waiting for like this life that I've been slowly building for myself. I can't wait for it to be torn away from me like everything else in my past has been.
Preaching to the choir, my boy.
I love you, Violet.
I love you, Connor.
You're my rosebud.
You are my tulip.
I got 2 lips for you right here.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of From the Margins. This has been Violet.
And this is Connor.
And also, as always, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and thank you for joining us on this special episode, this extra bonus episode of From the Margins. We appreciate all of your support. And yeah, just thank you. We had a great time recording this. This was so fun.
Bye.
Bye.